1, 2, 3, 4. Almost a weekend and you don't know what to do. Or you just need something fun to listen to.
Southside Pod!
Yes, we're on the air.
Pod.
And the gang's all here, all things on the South Side. We're listening to the Southside Pod. Looking for the best Southside breweries. Or you might just need an awesome place to eat.
Southside Pod!
Mount Greenwood, Evergreen, Blue Island, Beverly, Payless, and Allsup too. You're tuned into the Southside Pod.
Southside Pod!
Oakland, Midlothian,
Southside Pod.
Oak Forest, Chicago Ridge, Flossmoor, and Bridgeview. You're listening to Southside Pod.
And bellying up to my 9-foot homemade oak bar. Pour yourself a cold one. My name is Chris. Bill and Mike, you're going to hear more of them next week, okay? You might hear a little bit of them today. It's been a while since I've had them down here at the bar. I feel bad about it. Don't worry, though. They're going to be back in full force after this episode. Them not being here gives me an opportunity to get two really great guests in here. One started a brand new business in Payless Heights we're going to learn about, and the other one was given to me by our sponsor of Southside Pod, Tom Walsh, your Edward Jones financial advisor. He takes care of my money, Bill's money. He's helping out during some very uncertain financial times. I trust Tom. You can too. Find out what he can do for you by calling 773-779-0023 or stop in at the corner of 111th and Kedzie to that big Edward Jones office. I think it's kind of cool to bring in what I believe to be a pretty big name. And if Southsiders don't know about Ken Garr, you're gonna, because he's got himself a comedy special on Amazon Prime, which means a lot of people are watching this guy tell jokes. And he's got a really interesting story about how he went from being a Southsider. He grew up in the same neighborhood. We just found this out before we started talking here on the podcast. In the same neighborhood that I grew up in Chicago, in Ashburn. Then he was out in Tinley, and now he tells jokes for a living, and he's joining us right now. How are you, Ken?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thanks for having me today, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for joining me, okay? I know how busy it can be. People, I think, assume when you're a West Coaster now, and I know that you're out in the LA area, and you know you're a comedian, so immediately people are probably like, well, he's got all the time in the world. Like, he goes and he tells jokes at night, and you know he lives on a beach. And first of all, if you drive around LA, the traffic is so terrible. You really only have 4 workable hours in the day, I believe. So you actually are a very busy person, I assume.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Yeah, you have to make a decision on whether or not it's worth it to go out. You know what I mean? You start examining the analytics for all the traffic patterns. You know, you figure out which side streets you're going to take. It's pretty bad. You know, Chicago has definitely trained me, for life in LA as far as traffic goes. But yeah, I had no idea until I got here how really bad it was.
I would say the one weird thing, the one difference as somebody that lived out there for a while and grew up here like you did, is that you will get a traffic jam at 2 a.m. And you're like, how is this possible? How are this many people out? What the hell is going on here? I don't think you see that often in Chicago.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because my family are all firefighters in Chicago, and when there's God forbid an accident on the Dan Ryan, I mean they move it over and they clear it. In California, there's helicopters flying over. The news shows up. They shut down all 4 lanes of traffic. You know what I mean? Like, they bring the family out. It's like it becomes this whole ordeal. And meanwhile, like, I'm the South Sider going like, just move them over. Like, right. Let's go. Move it on.
Push them off to the side of the road. Figure out who's alive later. Well, we got things to do and people to see. You titled your comedy special on Amazon Prime American Hero. I watched it. I want to promise you I watched the entire thing. And I love why it's named that. And what I got out of it was what I've always assumed about comedy, what I've heard from other comedians in my time that I've talked with them, is that an awful lot of tragedy and scary things and intense things that get your blood pressure up later become your best comedy bits. And you got this out of going overseas. I want to say 30 or 50 miles outside of Syria in Iraq, and the entire experience of the crazy landing and the flak jackets and the Marine covered in guns and all of the stuff you described at the time was probably scary as hell. And now it becomes your big centerpiece to kick off your show, right?
Yeah, I mean, what an amazing experience. It kind of just came together very quickly. A friend of mine recommended me to someone who books armed forces entertainment tours for comedians. And one of the people that they had already booked, their passport was about to expire, so it disqualified them. And so I literally got a call that was like, "Hey, do you want to go entertain the troops in a week and a half? Is your passport good?" And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." Like, all right, we'll give you the details later. And they're like, just, here's your flight and all that stuff. And so like I literally like really had no idea where I was going. I knew I was going like in the Middle East, and I just figured I was going to like maybe some like really like well established base where like out of harm's way. And no, that wasn't the case at all. I mean, we literally landed in the middle of nowhere, artillery being fired within 300 meters of ISIS is attacking, anti-aircraft stuff going off, and they're like, "All right, tell your jokes, funny boy." And I'm like, "All right, here we go."
Yeah, make us laugh and duck every once in a while. That's crazy to me. That's insane. The one thing I really liked about your special was that you didn't start right off with wow, what a rough 2 years sitting in my house. Because it seems like every comedy special coming out right now, and I get it, you talk about things that happen in your life, but everybody's got basically the same take on COVID. And you waited a little while, and you kind of had a unique take on it. You didn't linger on it very much. How hard is it putting together your act to kind of balance that, knowing that it's a topic that every comedian is attacking, and you don't want to do too much of it?
Well, for me, it was about, my life has changed dramatically in the last couple of years. I got remarried. And so a lot of that material, I just wanted to kind of retire. And that's kind of what you do as a comedian. You make a special and you burn through the material, and then you just kind of start from scratch. So like right now I'm in the process of like writing out and working on a lot of new stuff. And so for me, it was kind of like, this is the story that I want to tell. The wars are over, and I'm grateful for that, and hopefully they stay over. But I also wanted to honor that experience and honor the soldiers that I had the opportunity and the privilege to go entertain. So it was a story that I wanted to open up with, and I thought it was something that was like a very unique to me, and also could help you understand as an audience member, if you haven't seen me before, like what my voice is and like really what I'm going to bring as far as a theme and a message to the special. So it seemed like the perfect start. And like you said, like everyone has pandemic material. As comedians, we're writers, and we're just writing about our experiences, and we all experienced the pandemic. But for me, it was just like, hey, let's talk about something else to kind of like let them know who I am as a comedian.
No, I dig that. I like that. How often do you incorporate your South-sidedness? Because growing up in Ashburn, look, if you grow up in the actual city limits, first off, you tend to tell people that live outside of the city limits and never lived in it. Yeah, you're not really from Chicago. You're from Naperville, for crying out loud. Be quiet. Or you're from Plainfield. Nobody wants to hear it, even though you say you're from Chicago. And I'm sure you run into it out there when people are like, I'm from Chicago too. And you're like, where? And they're like, Ottawa. And you just kind of laugh at them. So, I mean, how much of what your experience was first growing up in the city in Ashburn, and then later in life, you're in Tinley, which is a bustling place as well with its own attitude in the south suburbs that are in that area. How much of that works its way into your comedy?
Oh, a ton of it. I'm not, I don't really talk about politics. I don't really do pop culture. I just talk about me. I mean, as arrogant as it sounds, but like, that's what I know best. And so, I grew up in a very unique situation. I come from 3 generations of firefighters, my grandfather, my father, all of my brothers. My sister is an award-winning principal. I also grew up English Protestant in an Irish Catholic neighborhood. So I like to claim that, I've been a minority my whole life, right? And so I would walk around and knock on the door and collect taxes, from the old country.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, it's, for me, it's like, I want my experience or your experience as an audience member to be like, this is a guy that I want to have a beer with. This is a guy I could love. I could listen to all day, tell stories. And, especially when you first start up in stand up, like you're only writing about the things that you know. So I only knew the South Side. You know what I mean? I only knew about the bars on Western and going to Corrigan's and Keegan's and, all those bars that we would spend every Thursday night, spending dollar Dollar Miller Late Night or whatever it was, and then.
And Southside girls are a completely different type of girl.
My wife is a Southside girl, so I imported my wife. I literally.
God help Southern California.
Oh my God! Well, I dated all kinds of women out here, and I'm just like, you know what? I gotta go get a Southsider. And so I did. My friend Jen and I were friends for 6 years. She grew up on the South Side. Her father's a firefighter, and she got divorced. And I like to say, I like kind of was waiting in the bushes, and I just swooped in and like grabbed her like a hungry hippo, So. And it worked out. She's been very kind enough to be supportive of my career and moved out to LA. She likes it out here. Loves the weather. We don't miss the weather out there. But yeah, I'm a Southsider. I don't ever think you stop being a Southsider,
Right. Well, I did like that one bit that you had when you were talking about her. You were like, my wife is too hot for me.
Oh, it's 100%.
I get a kick out of that because let's be honest, you know this as much as I do. If you can tell some jokes and you do something maybe in public, you all of a sudden start meeting some girls that you're like, why are they even talking to me? Right. I mean,
oh yeah,
when I was in high school, the cheerleaders would never talk to me. As a morning radio guy, I ended up marrying a former cheerleader. She's smoking. And I have the same thing that you do. I'll be at like some function or something like that, and guys are like dancing with her. And like they've had a couple of drinks and all of a sudden they're talking real sweet to my wife and I get a kick out of it. It makes me feel big. And you were telling that same joke. And I was like, here's a guy. He understands this. Oh,
please buy my wife a drink. Save me the $12 it is right now. Honest to God, I'm not an insecure guy. I know we're still going home together. You know what I mean? So, for me, I get a kick out of it. And I wake up every day grateful. I always joke. I'm like, I wake up and I give her a kiss in the morning and I just remind her that no one is ever going to love her as much as I do. You know what I mean? It's like I just try to like gaslight her a little bit,
We're talking with Ken Garr, originally a Southsider, now big time comedian. Want to take a quick moment to remind you that if you've been injured, you need a team that will do what it takes to fight for your rights. The insurance companies only care about one thing. Bottom line, the law offices of Parente and Norum. Their team has the experience, dedication, proven results it takes to get you the care and compensation you deserve. The law offices of Parente and Norum have recovered over $400 million for their injured clients and their loved ones. For a free case evaluation, Southside Pod listeners, call or text them today, 312-641-5926, or visit pninjurylaw.com. You had a big time job, it seems like, when I read up on you. Like you were making big money. You were nowhere near comedy. And you make this big life change. What brings about the life change? And how do you all of a sudden just say, I'm going for it?
Yeah. So kind of the story was, I always thought I was going to be a firefighter like my dad. And it was like my dad brought us to work all the time. And the first time like smoke hit my face, I was like, I'm going to college. Like this is not for me.
I'm out.
I didn't even pretend, you know what I mean? It wasn't even, I didn't even fake it. I just,
Right. This is nothing like Backdraft in any way whatsoever. No.
My eyes teared up. I was coughing. I was like, this isn't for me. I'm going to college. So I did. Went to college, got my degree in finance, and worked in the financial section for many years. I ended up becoming a managing director at NASDAQ in the Chicago branch. I basically rubbed elbows with the CEO and CFOs of Fortune 500 companies. I had a direct line of communication with them to talk about, prize them on what was going on in the markets. But at the same time, I had taken classes at Second City. I had made it to the actual conservatory program, which is really difficult to get in. I started doing stand-up with the guys from Tony and Tina's Wedding that were in the basement there at Second City. At a rugby bar across the street from Second City. So I just kind of started doing it. And another friend of mine, Denise Ramsden, another Southsider, great comedian. She was my first friend to do stand-up comedy. And I went and watched her and I was just like, man, I think I can do this. So, but having grown up in such a blue collar family, it was all about having a pension and always having a job and taking care of your family, taking care of your bills. And so I never had the courage to kind of take that leap. And then when I got divorced from my first wife about 10 years ago, I was just miserable. I was unhappy. I had this like great job. I had all the money in the world, but I was just sad. And every time I was happy, the only time I was ever happy was when I was on stage. And so I told myself and my family, I said, look, you can do anything for a year. Like if I leave the job market for a year, no one's going to be like, no, you can't come back in, especially with the resume that I had built for myself. And I had a really cool story to tell. So I wasn't worried about that. But I always said you could do anything for a year and you could just try it. And so I left NASDAQ and I sold my house, sold all of my possessions. I packed up some clothes and I drove out to Los Angeles and rented an apartment. And the rest is history. That was 9 years ago. Well, actually, it was 9 years ago this month that I did that. And now I perform every night on some of the best stages in the world, the Hollywood Improv, the Laugh Factory, the Comedy Store. You know, my heroes are my peers, and my life is magical. And it's all because, you know, for me, what became important was being happy and not really like money and security. And I look, I had some rough days. You know, for a while I was Uber driving, you know, just to make ends meet after the savings had dried up. But you just, you know, it didn't matter to me. To me, like it was just a ends justify the means. I was doing what I had to do so that I could get on stage at night and just become a little bit better as a comedian.
That's awesome. What are you doing when you're driving across the country with all your possessions after doing that? Are you cranking tunes that literally talk about it? Like you got Billy Joel, My Life on there. Now he does a stand-up routine in LA and you're belting it out. Like, are you doing that?
Well, I stopped every night and did stand-up on the way out. And I actually got to perform at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. They gave me a guest set, which they never do. Brad Garrett from Everybody Loves Raymond owns a club out there. And I had opened for him in Chicago at the Improv. And he's like, look, we don't do this, but we'll make an exception. And I knocked it out of the park. And now I get to perform regularly at the MGM on the Strip. But for me, it was just like, I remember stopping in like outside of Omaha at a Subway. And like this guy came in with like his family. And, you know, they were like, you know, how kids do when they're young, they're just kind of nagging their dad for extra cookies or whatever. And I'm just like, maybe I made a terrible mistake. maybe this was supposed to be my life. I'm like, what do you do? Like, there were a couple times in my life where, especially like flying in a C-130 over Baghdad while like there's like we're wearing night vision goggles while there's like lightning storms on the horizon. I'm just like, this was really, you made a really terrible decision with your life.
Right. I mean, look, if something bad's going to happen at that point, you want to have a couple of specials out. Like you want to trend on Twitter if you go down. You don't want it to just be like, and there was a comedian on the plane. So I feel like, you know, you got this Amazon Prime thing now, and like, you know, it feels like you got this growing career, and I think it's exciting. I think for anybody that, you know, look, you probably had the same thing that I had when I said I'm going to go off and start doing radio. A lot of quizzical looks like, you're going to what? Because my family, all police officers, you know, a couple of firemen, mainly police officers. Same thing you said, pension, you know, you got to have this stability. You should live in this neighborhood. Make sure you send your kids to this school. Like you have this expectation. And when you sit there and say, I'm going to pack up my stuff and go do this crazy thing that none of you thought that I was capable of, you get these weird looks. But now I would think, you know, the South Side also loves its success stories. And you've got have a lot of people right now who are saying, man, this is super cool. Sky's the limit for Ken Garr.
Man, honest to God, like I would say every other day I get just a random note on Facebook or Instagram or something from somebody I went to high school with, or somebody from the South Side. They're just like, man, I'm so proud of you. Like you're doing it. And they always seem to come at a time where I'm just like questioning, you know, because show business is hard, man. And in order to make a living in this business, like if you're making a living, you've made it. You know what I mean? Like that's how I judge my success. Like my bills are paid. I don't have any credit card debt. I got a little money in savings. Like I'm happy. You know what I'm saying? Like, am I a Bill Burr or a Louis C.K. or, you know?
Well, yeah, I don't know if you want to be Louis C.K.
Yeah, right.
Now.
Yeah. but I mean, am I at that level yet? No, but like, you know, maybe one day I will be, but like, I'm happy, man. Every day I wake up and I get to do the things that I want to do. And I know there's a lot of people in life that don't have the opportunity to do that. And I'm just really grateful every single day that I get to do that. But you're absolutely right. Like leaving, like people act like, why would you ever leave the South Side?
Right.
Like we've got Jewel here. Like, why would you do that? We've got, you know, we've got Rainbow Cone. Like we have everything you'll ever need here. You know?
Where are you going to get a good pizza and an Italian beef? Yeah. What are you, crazy? Like, Sit down, eat, think about it a little bit. That's what you got to do. Before I let you go, I got to ask you, I love asking this question because I already kind of know the general answer. People assume that most folks that get famous or get out in public or people they see on their TV or everything like that, there's something different about them, that they're not normal folks. And I think that when you get yourself into this world, and we've been lucky enough here on the show, we've got myself and Bill, who's on the show, have both been, in radio and been in media. We realize that isn't true. Give me somebody that you've met in comedy or whatever you're doing that people would be surprised. That's a pretty down to earth, nice person that you've kind of met out there.
Honestly, almost everybody I've met has been, and so like the what I would say about celebrities is the reason they're celebrities is because people want to continue to work with them. You know what I mean? And so like I had the opportunity to meet Adam Sandler briefly, and he just couldn't have been nicer, spent a lot of time talking with me. But here's the interesting story is I actually reached out to Tom Dreesen, who's another Southsider who moved out here in the 70s and hit it big, opened for Sinatra for 16 years. And he took me to lunch, and he took me into the locker room at the Toluca golf course. And he showed me Bob Hope's locker, and next to it was a guy tying his shoes, and it ended up being Joe Pesci. And so he goes, Tom, Joe, this is my good friend. We had just met. This is my good friend, Kenny Garr. He's from the South Side of Chicago. And this is Joe Pesci. And I'm like, hi, Joe Pesci. You know what I mean? And It's just like one of these random, and he's tiny. It ruined every movie for me. He's a tiny, tiny man. And I'm like, you can't beat up anybody.
Yeah, nothing's believable. When he stabs that guy in the eye in Goodfellas, you no longer believe that he could do it.
No, he did it on a soapbox. But I mean, he could not have been nicer. The nicest guy in the world. We had a nice, good conversation, about 4 or 5 minutes. And, but I just thought it was so great that a Southsider like Tom Dreesen introduced me to this like bigger than life, not in real, and smaller than life celebrity. And, honestly, it was like, I've had so many of these moments where I'm like pinching myself, like, is this really my life? Like, I really can't believe it. So if you're a Southsider and you got a dream, man, go for it. Honestly, if that's what my one message I can share with you today, you can do anything for a year. And if not, you can go back to your job. I promise you.
That's awesome. Ken Garr's got a special. It's good. I watched it. It's American Hero. It kicks off right away good, and it just continues being good. It's on YouTube, but it's, of course, also on Amazon Prime, and he was nice enough to jump on Southside Pod and visit for a little bit. And Ken, I really appreciate you jumping on. I look forward to following your career and seeing what's next.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
It's the Southside Pod.
It's the Southside Pod.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
It's the Southside Pod.
It's the Southside Pod.
OMG.
OMG.
It's the SSP.
It's the SSP.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
It's the Southside Pod.
It's the Southside Pod. Switch to a new age of life. You're unable to get around your home very well anymore, or mom and dad having issues. Assisted living is not what people want these days. They want to stay in their home. Hyatt Home Medical Equipment is going to make the home into a smart home. Some of this stuff I need in my own house. An app that opens and closes doors. A bathtub I can sit down in. I'm all up for sitting showers these days. If you need diabetes control, they have the latest. If you need a CPAP machine because of the sleep apnea, they have the latest technology for that as well, and testing rooms. They're going to lower the chance of a fall in the home. They're going to answer every question. They're going to work with your insurance. They're going to give you a deep discount if you mention Southside Pod. You're going to see everything that they do by going to hhme.com or stop in and see one of their very skilled team members and ask them any question you want. 3518 West 95th Street in Evergreen Park. It's now time for your Southside Pod bulletin board, and the first thing I want to talk about is something that's new, I've never heard of, and I can't wait to go check out. It is the Dark Arts Market at Sound Growler Brewing Company out in Tinley Park. It's coming up on Saturday, the 22nd of October. A spine-tingling selection of unique, macabre, dark, witty, interesting, special pieces of art and handmade items. The way I'm reading this is, it's at a brewery, so there's beer, there's tacos, and you may find a unique item that can open up a gateway to hell. Just in time for Halloween. 8201 183rd Street, Sound Growler Brewing on Saturday, the 22nd of October. This bulletin board brought to you, of course, by Cool Clouds Vapor Shop. Quitting smoking is hard, and Cool Clouds wants to give you an alternative. They have a full taster bar, great CBD products. They're at 3837 West 95th Street in Evergreen Park, or check out all they have to offer at coolcloudsvapor.com. This Saturday, lots of things going on. For the kids, Trunk or Treat in Oak Lawn, noon until 2, 4527 Southwest Highway. Live DJ, food for purchase, and also Trunk or Treat. This Saturday, the 15th, starting at 6 p.m., going until 11:30, is the Lamont Pirate Pub Crawl. That's all you have to say to me. Raffles, giveaways, some of the bars have live bands. They're raising money for some local charities. Check out lamontdowntown.com for more details. And in Blue Island this Saturday at 6 p.m., it's Rock Across the Bridge at Blue Island Beer Company. I'm counting 4 bands, several vendors there. 6 p.m. doors, first band at 6:15, $10 cover at the brewery, 13357 Old Western Avenue in Blue Island. I was just there recently too. A lot of good beers on tap. We're gonna have to bring Southside Pod back there very soon and talk about what they have to offer in Blue Island at Blue Island Beer Company. This show is gonna go a little over 30 minutes. I really enjoyed talking to Ken Garr, but we went out to Palos Heights and we learned about a brand new business. So we're going into overtime a little bit. This last segment brought to you by Sid Sauce, locally grown peppers here on the South Side, bottled here on the South Side, delicious hot sauces delivered to your door. See all the different sauces. Trust me, there is one for every type of food. I love my hot sauce, and the only hot sauce I buy now and put in my belly is from Sid Sauce at sidsauce.net. All right, we're out in Palos Heights, and every time I go to Palos Heights, I have to strongly remind everybody that we are in Palos, because the Palos people are constantly complaining that there's not enough Southside Pod in Palos. And so what I'm going to do is a little meet the neighbors in Palos. I've been saying I wanted to do this. I want to do this in every area of the South Side, and meeting cool businesses, maybe a new business that opened up. This one opened up in February. It's called Heights Cycle, and I am sitting here with Megan Winstrup, who is the new owner of a cycling store. How are you, Megan?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. First of all, I want to point out that Megan listens to the show. So
I do.
You were listening to Southside Pod, and you wanted to talk a little bit about your place, and I've walked around it, and I think the first thing that I noticed is a big giant room with exercise cycles. The instructor is sitting up on like a little stage in front of them. You drop down the lights. There's black lights. There's weird designs on the wall. There's big giant speakers. It seems to me like it's quite a party in there, and you guys get in there and rock. What kind of environment is it when you bring people in to cycle?
Well, I think it's super fun. As you said, it gets really dark in there. The music's really loud, and we just do our best to motivate and inspire. And it's a really high energy, positive place to be.
See, cycling to me is more my speed. I'm going to be honest with you. I have gone to things where I have to run. Things where I have to run really hard, things where it's like, now you're going to do intense running. I hate running. Running is the worst thing in the world. Cycling's more low impact. I'm one of those people that I notice that every time I say I'm going to become a runner, about 2 weeks into it, I have some sort of bump on my leg, some sort of clot, some sort of shin splint. My body was never made for running. Cycling's more my speed. Do you get people that come in here who are like, I hate running, that's why I cycle?
Lots of people that hate running, but I would tell you that I actually started because I was a runner. I was training for a race, and I decided to really commit to the indoor cycling as my cross train. And then after I did that, I ran my race, and I dropped like a full minute off my per mile pace. Now, I'm not like a crazy awesome athlete or anything, but the point is that I was just blown away, and I thought, wow, this really works. And it feels so much better on my body because it's easier on your joints. And so then I was kind of like, I think I'm hooked, and I kind of think I want to do this because I was blown away by the results.
So I see these ads. I see the Peloton thing. I see where the people sit on the bike. I think it killed one of the cast members of Sex and the City, from what I understand. Like,
right.
Right. I mean, like, what, did that like? First of all, did that hurt business? Like when he died on a bicycle, were you like, oh no, that's it for my cycling store?
I didn't hear anything about that, to be honest.
Good.
Yeah,
I was worried. I mean, the way that people overreact, seriously. Okay, he's a TV character, but what is the difference? First of all, not only is he a TV character, but was he really that dreamy, like that they make him out to be?
I think it was more about like their chemistry and their story, but no, especially in this reboot, I was like, oh, Mr. Big, you're not aging well.
All right, so, but what is the difference? I mean, I think this has become this is a craze. The Peloton thing's a craze. People buy them for Christmas. They get there and they have like this virtual coach that coaches them inside of their house. There's got to be a benefit, though, or otherwise places like yours wouldn't be opening up to having a big group of people do it together, to having live instruction. What is that benefit?
Yeah. The benefit is that when you are surrounded by a group of people, you feed off of their energy, and it's undeniable. I always say that this is like an individual workout in a group fitness experience. It's not unlike baseball, where you play on a team, but there's a lot of individualism in the game, right? So you can have somebody who is like an Ironman on one bike, and then you can have a beginner on the other bike, and each person can decide how hard they work, and so everyone can walk out having a shared experience, but getting their own workout at their own pace. And so I guess I would say that's the big difference. On top of that, I've been having a lot of Peloton riders come in lately, and they keep saying, like, I just can't get over the difference between, being at home by myself and coming in, and, the difference in the calorie burn and the experience when you're surrounded by other people. And there's something about leaving your house, booking an appointment and leaving your house and making and paying for it, that keeps you accountable, that is getting people to come in, even those that have bikes at home.
See, the one thing that always worries me, and I'm curious, like your thoughts on this. Group exercise rooms, there's several rows of bikes there, right? So like if I walked into your group exercise room, I would now be faced with an interesting choice. Do I want to be up towards the front, but then know that my awkward, out of shape butt is sticking up in the air and people behind me are looking at it? Or do I want to sit in the back where everybody's going to assume I'm only sitting in the back so I can look at people's butts? Like, is that something that happens in the class? What do you think is the mentality on it?
Well,
seriously, it's a quandary.
It is. It's a real thing. And what I would say is that as a woman, I have not had those thoughts that much, but I've heard lots of rumbling from male riders about this stuff. And as an instructor,
you don't want to look shady running to the back. You're like, well, that's why he's in the back. But I'm going to the back because I don't want anybody looking at me.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you just got to go where you're comfortable. And I will tell you, it's really funny. I just got new retail and, branded apparel for the studio. And one of the T-shirts that we made said, "Get off my bike," because people come like a half hour early to get like their bike. Really? So people run in the door, they put their stuff on their bike, they set it up, and then they come back out and like sit down and chat with me.
And somehow Bike 13 is like the bike to be on.
It's their bike. Yes.
Crazy. Height Cycle, not even a year old. I know that you were just telling me you're getting ready for your holiday stuff, and right after that, it's your 1 year anniversary in February. One of the new businesses here in Palos Heights. If somebody wants to try you out, is there a tryout thing where like they can just get an individual class before they commit? Because with anything new, people need to sample it first, right?
Yes, absolutely. I always say trying something new is hard. So the first time you come in here, walking in the door, you've won. And then we get you all set up on your bike. And I said, from now on, the rest of this is like the whipped cream and cherry on top. So absolutely, first class is always free, so you can contact the studio, and we'll get you all set up, and we would love to have everyone and anyone who's willing to give us a try.
All right, Megan, before I let you go, plug time. You got a website? You want to give out the address? You want to give out the phone number? Go for it.
Yes, thank you. So our website is heightcycle.com. We are at 7224 West College Avenue in Palos Heights, right across the parking lot from Starbucks. And the phone number to call is 773-517-1304.
I'm glad you reached out to me. I mean, I'm going to tell you, first of all, I wasn't sure if cycling places existed anymore. Everybody's into these new type of fitness things. And I really didn't know that, and you've got a brand new one. And after listening to you, I am convinced that it probably makes more sense to do it in a crowd. And it sounds like you're having a good time here. I mean, there's a lot of laughter in this building.
There definitely is, and we're going to laugh a lot when you and your partners come and take class.
Oh, yeah, she wants to have us all here. That would be. We might need video for that one as well. Megan, thanks so much.
Thank you.
It's the Southside! It's the Southside! It's Southside Pod! Thanks for listening! Thanks for tuning in to the Southside Pod! Y'all come back now, you hear?